head coach and defensive coordinator Steve Weiser. Guys, the most incredible asset that I can have on our coaching staff is a football team. Been here for 30 plus years. As a student athlete, is in our Hall of Fame. As a wrestler and as a football player, no doubt will hopefully someday, no doubt should be in our Hall of Fame someday as a coach. The best, Wise. Thanks for everything you do, Steve Weiser. Offensive line coach and special teams coordinator Drew DiGiacinto is here tonight with his date Jessica DiPaolo. Now, I'm not sure exactly how Coach D was able to secure a date for such a formal event, but we're glad that he has. Hey, Drew took over this year, and I worked some camps with Drew in the past, and knew he was a very good, outstanding, very good young offensive line coach who worked at camp at Princeton every summer, and I was fortunate that Drew returned to our staff this year. But the role that I thought he did just an incredible job with us this year was in coordinating our special teams. Having coached the offensive line for the 10 seasons prior to coming back here, I don't know that I could have ever done what Drew did this year. And to coach the offensive line and to coordinate special teams is an incredible task. But Drew was willing to step up and take it and just did a phenomenal job for us. Drew DiGiacinto. When Coach Weiser made the decision to return, and it was funny, it was one meeting we had at some point last year where two guys, we met in the office, and Coach Weiser and I were there, but so was Mike Weber, and Webb is here tonight with his wife Tanya, and what a great meeting, and to the point that I spoke to Brian Ankin, our lacrosse coach, before they decided to come back, and it was just like, I couldn't believe that those guys weren't going to be a part of this, because for so long they have been. And fortunately, again, as things worked out in January and into February, Steve returned, Weber decided to come back with him, and with 20 plus years of playing here as a student athlete and coaching here, those guys really understand what our program and what our tradition is all about. And so, no different than in the past, did an incredible job this year with our linebackers, Mike Weber. Thanks. Two recent graduates that I'd like to, or at least one of them has graduated. I think the other one, thanks, you got it. We're almost there. But two young men who didn't have the fortune of winning a championship as a player, but took the time to stay with us this year and to trust the staff and to come back and work with some of their former teammates and all the new guys who came in this year. Just did an outstanding job for us. Always in the office. Despite the fact that he was a great player in the defensive line, we moved him to the secondary, and he did a phenomenal job with Coach Weiser. Heck of a young football coach. I hope there's some way we can keep him next year. Ryan Gable. And Ryan Dixon also did a great job for us this year as a student assistant, folks. It's tough to manage going to class and then understand the things that we're trying to accomplish as coaches, but Brian found the time to do it, put in a lot of extra time and effort, was great with our guys last spring in the weight room, and was a big help to us. And if there's any way he can come back next year, hopefully it'll be as a graduate, which I'm sure will be. Thanks, we'd love to have you back too, kid. Thanks so much for everything you did. The next young man I'd like to talk about is not a Lycoming alum, but I have a pretty good relationship with his father. His father, I think, is an outstanding football coach and someone who I also know from working camps. And when I heard that his son wanted to get into coaching, I knew he finished an outstanding career at Westchester. And even though his father is a friend of mine, the first thing he told me about Billy was that he said, "Mike, I know he's my son, but he's really smart." And from the first time I sat down with him and discussed the opening here and talked football with him, I could just tell that he had a really great football mind, and came in this year and did a nice job with our quarterbacks, Bill Vaughn Jr. Thanks, Bill. After 36 years of Coach Girardi and his sons being here, I felt obligated that I had to have at least one short Italian guy on the staff, and so as we got into the season, Carmen Bianco surfaced. And seriously, the thing that jumped out to me about Carmen was he hadn't been in coaching for a couple of years, but he was persistent. And the most important thing to me was to have guys on our staff who wanted to coach and who wanted to be around our players and who wanted to be successful. And Carmen Bianco was relentless. I wasn't sure where I was going. I had some openings that I was trying to fill, and there were some other guys who returned to the staff, and I really wasn't sure where we were going to go with the last spot or two, but Carmen just wouldn't quit. And folks, he works up at Mansfield University, leaves Williamsport every day, drives an hour north, leaves work early, worked out some comp time so he could be with us this year, and he hit the field running every day when he could get there. Did a great job for us this year. Here tonight was his wife, Mary Beth. Carmen, thank you so much for the honor. Also here tonight with us, in one of our part-time jobs, did a great job for us, has been very successful, had a couple of local high school programs, and also has a sense of our tradition as he attended school here at Lycoming as well, as Ken Tallman. Now, Ken is still here. I wasn't sure. He's got a baby on the way, and by Monday probably going to be have a newborn. But Ken was a late hire. We had a coach who was going to stay with us that took a job at another place, and we were scrambling this summer. But Ken was willing. He left Loyal Soccer, where they've been very successful the last few years, of going to Williamsport, and even though financially it might not have been the best move for him, Ken Tallman wanted an opportunity to coach at a successful program at the collegiate level, and he came in and did a great job with Drew on the offensive line with the tight ends this year. Also a tremendous asset on special teams, Ken Tallman. Thanks, Ken. Two men that couldn't be here tonight, both of who have coached here before, but are kind of on the IR right now with surgeries. Steve Radachai and Denny Hammond have both been here in successful stretches in the mid-'80s and in the mid to late '90s. And they both made a decision to return and work with us, which was great for us this year on the defensive line. Those two guys kind of balance each other out. For those of you that know Coach Radachai, he's high energy and very enthusiastic, and Coach Hammond is more of the old scribe and does a pretty good job to neutralize Coach Radachai. So those guys, I wish they could be here tonight, but again, Coach Rad just had back surgery, and Coach Hammond just recently had shoulder surgery, couldn't be with us tonight, but a big part of our success this season, I'd like to mention them both. Also like to thank the wives and significant others of our coaches. I realize that what we do takes a lot of time away from your spouses and from your children, and it's tough. You go from working a lot of hours during the week to, as soon as the season's over, we had Thanksgiving, and then we were each gone for essentially 3 straight weeks. And now, if you're lucky, if that we're home, we're probably on the telephone calling recruits, and appreciate, hopefully the summers you'll be able to enjoy your husbands a little bit more. But thanks so much for allowing your husbands and significant others for spending time with us. Thank you. Almost finished with the thank yous. Fortunately for me tonight, my parents were able to make it. And aside from Coach Carey and Coach Girardi, they're a big reason of why I'm here tonight. My brothers always joke that I'm like the favorite son, and I got to go to Lycoming, and my brothers went to Westchester and Millersville. No offense, Coach Juan. But there's a difference in sending your sons to private schools. But then I graduated, and I thought I was great. And I bought a car when I graduated from here in '93, and instead of borrowing the money from a bank like most people would do, my father was gracious enough to borrow from his retirement plan. And after a year, I came with the wonderful idea of quitting that full-time job to get into coaching, and took a job as a graduate assistant at Rowan, which paid me no money. So I'd like to think I settled the debt. I know I really haven't done that, but parents are a big part of my success, and very supportive throughout the year. So thanks, Mom and Dad. Most of the staff's wise, and at this time I'll say my last thank you to my wife Danielle. In just under 10 years of marriage, we live now at least, depending on what you count and what you don't, at least 4 different homes, and we've seen our family grow from just the 2 of us to 5 of us and a dog. So she's always been there through the good and the bad. from the low points of the 3 and 7 seasons at Davidson to the highlight of my career so far, the 2008 MAC championship. She's a supportive wife, an incredible mother to our children, and this lifestyle would be much harder without her. Thanks, Danielle. A couple things before we get into our award winners. We'll take the time to honor the seniors, but before we do, I just wanted to read you guys a quote, and so you understand what, as coaches, we're trying to portray to your sons as student athletes, and certainly winning is important, but I didn't have this book, and I had it last year when I was hired, but I didn't read it until throughout the spring, and as we got back into the camp this year, I read this quote to our players, and I read it again before the Wider game, so these guys know where I'm going with this one, and it's a little, some of the verbiage may be a little corny, but it makes, I think, a lot of sense, and it's from a Bear Bryant book that some of the seniors at Davidson gave our coaching staff a year ago, and it's a quote from his first team meeting, or at least paraphrasing his first team meeting, and the first thing that Bear Bryant said as he addressed the Crimson Tide of Alabama when he was hired was something along these lines. He said, "Gentlemen, I just put a sign up in the football office that says, winning isn't everything, but it beats anything that comes in second. I want you to think about that. And not just when you're on the practice field or in a game." There were several puzzled looks. What was he saying? You see, I want you to dress like winners. I want you to study like winners. I want you to have respect for others. Yes, even those on the other side of the ball, like others, or like winners. And that includes respect for your mamas and papas for the reason you're here today. I want you to write home and thank them for giving you the chance to play football for the University of Alabama. Every eye was on Bear Bryant now. They had never heard a coach talk like this before. He slowly paced the front of the room as he went on. Believe me when I tell you this, winning is contagious. If old Bobby acts like a winner, little Scooter will there too. And on it'll go until we don't have anything else on this team but winners. Now I'm not about to bring up all the losing that's been going on around here lately. That's over. It's time to win now. And the Crimson Tide is going to do that a lot from here on out. And we're going to do it while displaying class in all areas. Let's get our minds on a very special sport, the game of football. And let's get ready to work our tails off for the national championship that we're going to win much quicker than most folks think we will. And folks, that's what we related it to this year. We have an amazing tradition here, and I referred to Rob and G earlier. But if we don't win the MAC championship, I don't think we've achieved our #1 goal here. But we want guys that are going to do it the right way. And the thing that I'm most proud of as our team is I think we have a pretty good group of kids who work hard in the classroom, who do a pretty good job of, while enjoying themselves socially, for the most part, stay out of trouble. And that matters. That matters. I think we've got a great foundation. That, we set the tone this year, like I said earlier, and I mean that, guys, we belong at the top of the MAC. And we belong in the playoffs. And that's the mindset that we're going to have from here on out. And I appreciate the fact that you guys go into that, right? So I think it meant a lot. Okay. One more thing before we move on to our awards for the seniors. I'd like to read a list of team achievements that we were able to win this year. In 2008, our team won its 14th MAC championship and made our 12th NCAA Division III playoffs. We pushed our home winning streak, right, to 8 games. Right, we're undefeated at home this season. We pushed that streak down to 8 games. We were first in the league in rushing defense and first in the league in passing offense. Several school records were set, or a few school records were set this year. Josh Kleinfelder toted the ball 42 times against Susquehanna in game 2 of the year. I didn't know, I walked off at halftime, they told me he had a career high in rushing yardage, but I didn't know he had 21 carries at halftime. And we certainly weren't trying to set a record, but that's a heck of a statement about the quality player that Josh is. Also set a school record for the longest touchdown pass this year, the 98-yarder versus Wilson Collins Wire to Brad Schellenberger, a big-time play right there. One thing that should be a record this year that amazingly isn't, I thought for sure when we had 8 sacks against Bridgewater that had to be some kind of record, but as you start to dig around, Somehow we had 13 against Wilkes in 2000, so 8 should be a record, but it's not, okay? And I think shows you the type of defense that we played here throughout the years. Throughout the season, the MAC Office awards Player of the Week honors on offense, on defense, and on special teams. And in 6 of the 10 weeks in which we played this year, we had at least one member of our football team win the MAC Player of the Week honor. September 20th, versus Susquehanna, Offensive Player of the Week in the MAC, Josh Kleinfelder. Defensive Player of the Week that week, Chuck Polito. On the 27th against Bridgewater, MAC Special Teams Player of the Week, Ray Bierbach. Defensive Player of the Week, Kyle Murin. On October 11th, I believe this one was Albright, right? Nick Reach, Defensive Player of the Week. 25th against Delaware Valley. Terrible conditions, third quarter, Scott Erickson game-winning field goal against Delaware Valley, MAC Special Teams Player of the Week. FDU Madison, Offensive Player of the Week in the MAC, Josh Kleinfelder. Defensive Player of the Week, Ben Rosa. And on the 15th, the game in which we clinched our 14th MAC championship, we swept the awards. Josh Kleinfelder, MAC Offensive Player of the Week. Jimmy Daly, big interception return for a touchdown, MAC Defensive Player of the Week. Scott Erickson, four field goals in the mud, MAC Special Teams Player of the Week. Great job, guys. All MAC team this year. And guys, this is the best part that I can, it's just a National Park convention and I can walk around and see coaches who I know have more all MAC players than us, but they don't have what we have in the league championship. So, I'm going to mention these individual achievements because I think they're important, but our team goals certainly supersede those. First team all MAC wide receiver, Ryan Wagner. First team all MAC D-back, Nick Reese. First team all MAC defensive lineman, Ted Gerds. 5 of our players were all league second team. Running back Josh Kleinfelder. Quarterback Colin Dwyer. Offensive tackle Pat Taylor. Offensive tackle Nathan Schrack. Defensive back Chuck Polito. And then we had 2 young men make the Division3Football.com All East Region second team. Defensive lineman Ted Gerds. Defensive back Chuck Polito. Pretty impressive list of awards there. Pretty impressive. Very proud of you guys. Now I'd like to move on and we're going to talk about our seniors. We'll go in numerical order. And at that time I'd like each to come up and present you a couple things, and Dick will take our photo. But really, really proud of this group. Again, this is a group of young men that have been here for 3 years, and despite the fact that there was a lot of continuity on the staff, there were still some changes. And the thing that allowed us to be so successful is because our players bought into and were willing to do all the little things that we asked them to do. It made a difference, and that would not have happened without the group of 14 seniors who I'm about to talk about. So. Again, just a great group. First young man that I want to talk to, again, starting in the numerical order makes it pretty easy, but in 2007, one of the things I noticed when I came in, we had some issues special teams wise. I know we kind of got caught in a tough situation when an all-league kicker decided to transfer. And midway through the 2007 season, a young man came out after leaving the soccer team, and Scotty showed a little promise. And then this year, just did a great job for us. Very consistent on kickoffs, and flat out won at least 2 ball games for us in the Delaware Valley game, and certainly the Lebanon Valley game late in the year. So despite the fact that he was only a member of the football team for 1.5 years, he's the MAC Special Teams Player of the Week on October 25th and November 15th. Certainly glad he made the decision to join the football team. Number 1, Scott Erickson.